brothers and sisters. This is your brother Jay Leon. And I think it is very important and very urgent. If you have loved ones that are still alive, they're able to talk, please go visit your loved ones. If you don't do nothing, do what I did. Take my cell phone, take your cell phone and ask them questions. The hard questions. Why they are still capable or still in their right mind. And get as much information as you can. Upload it to your email so you can forever have it. But please, go and get your this information from your loved ones if they are still alive. You know the old saying, how do you know where you're going if you don't know where you come from? So many of us don't know our history. And I would like to say I have did my best to do my due diligence for those elders while they were living. I have 3 elders that has passed, and you guys are about to hear some of the information that I got from them. Always never really believed the slave story, so I had to ask my elders, because I'm going to believe my elders before I believe what some dude put in the book. And it's kind of funny because most people always say, well, why you believe that book? A man wrote it. Most of y'all believe the history that somebody put in a book that a man wrote, not what your elder said. Please, if you are like me and you don't believe in the slave story, go ask your elders, did they ever hear about their ancestors were descendants or slaves, their grandmothers or great-grandmothers? You go ask the story. Now, I'm not here to tell you that you were not a slave, because some of y'all probably were slaves. You know, some of y'all look like, you know, some of y'all might, you know, y'all act or carry yourselves like y'all might be slaves. You know, some of you people that walk around with your pants hanging off the butt, you might have been, I ain't trying to pick on you, but I'm just saying y'all might be descendants from slaves. Some of y'all, the way y'all carry yourselves in lives, y'all might have been slaves. But you know, a person like me, I know I just wasn't cut from that type of cloth. I know I don't even have to take a DNA test to know what's in my DNA. What's in my DNA is I wish a ninja would. Somebody hit me with a whip, that wouldn't happen today. If anybody dreamed about hitting me, they'll wake up and have to apologize. They would definitely have to quickly repent. Ain't nobody hitting me with nothing and telling me to do nothing. That's not in my DNA. I'm sure I'm cut from a particular cloth where when I hear about my ancestors, my people didn't play. So that's why, you know, I don't play. It ain't in my DNA. You know, we don't do none of that. Hit me. You have a farm or land full of people like me, and you got a handful of people with whips. Boy, please stop playing. Who you think you playing with? Anyway, I'll have to do another video outside of that, but I just want y'all to hear the footage from my ancestors, my people that I was able to capture while they were alive. Go on this journey with me. This is your brother Jay Leon. Peace. But that's what I was saying, Grandma. I wanted to learn about our history. Oh yeah, yeah. I want to know more about our history, because you say so. So you say our people, your great grandpeople, they was not slaves. So do you know how far back you remember?
No, but go ahead and ask the question.
Okay, but you know they wasn't slaves.
We were in Indiana.
And your mother, what year was your mother born?
I don't know.
You were seeing some hoes. Anna, come on here. I didn't see you.
But she wasn't no slave, and her mother and father was not slaves.
So that was.
And my grandmother's mother was not a slave.
And that was the 1800s. Well, your birthday was 1930, right?
36.
1936. So your mother was probably born in the early 1900s. Yeah.
And see, with Jim gone, he would have had some history on that. And then maybe she know a little, but they know they weren't slaves. They could say that. Now, like I said, my great-great-grandmother, Lily might be little about her. But I don't know nothing about her. you know. I know they weren't slaves. That much I know.
Right.
I definitely know that.
So okay, because they were Creole.
Yeah.
So Queepa, you know about the Creole? Because she was saying she know her great grandparents wasn't slaves and they was Creole.
I mean, I've known that.
Yeah, she knew that, but
And they were Louisiana. Because I was doing I don't know who.
and speaking of Creole, my grandmother, she had Indian in her. I think they had Indian in them.
They had Indian in
Yeah,
them.
is that what made them Creole? The Indians?
I'm not sure if the Indian is what made them Creole. But you said your great grandmother was Indian?
They were part Indian. Had Indian.
You don't know what tribe they were from, do you?
I don't know that, and I don't think they know that. Now, Jim might wouldn't know, but he died, so we can talk to him. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't know what tribe, but they would probably know more about whatever that I'm saying.
Yeah. That's all right.
But they definitely was not slaves.
It definitely were not slaves.
Not them, not maybe they kind of behind that, further back might have been, you know.
Okay. Well, that's
They come across, they were sisters, and we were naming them.
your mother's sister.
You man, stop recording me. I knew you was doing that.
Yeah, because I need this information.
But I mean, I don't really know anything to tell what I'm just saying. And she was trying to name them, and I'm like, that was, her name was such and such. Her name, we were,
Right.
anyway, it was pretty interesting. I don't know, I believe she probably kind of saw the drop what she was doing,
Yeah.
and maybe she didn't. But see, she don't ask me, because she would ask a lot of questions, so she said she was writing a book. And she haven't bothered me lately about the family. So I'm simply saying she has information she can do as well.
Okay, because I saw hers on Ancestry.com. Some of those names from Adolf. Matter of fact, because I called her and she gave me some names. So I was, building that genealogy as well.
Man, she gave the names of who?
Some of the names you was just saying, like Adolf, your grandfather. But yeah, so I'm trying to, know my history, and so it's like it's good.
Well, trust me, not out. I mean, like I said, maybe Adolf, my grandmother's mother, Lily knows her name. I don't remember it. Maybe some 8 people before that was slaves. But I have never heard nobody say in our family that we had slaves.
Right.
So it had to be further back.
Well, it could just be a lie. They said it could just be a lie. If nobody in your family ever said that we were slaves, that's maybe a new teaching.
Somewhere along the line, we must have had slaves way back, is what I'm saying. Somebody came from slaves back there. Y'all leave that stuff alone, whatever you mess with.
But you said somebody came from slaves, but you just said your great grandparents wasn't slaves.
But how about the young thing?
Yeah, but that don't mean they were slaves. And then the thing is, you got to realize that slavery was only in the South. It wasn't. People ran to the North. So if your parents was in the North, then they couldn't have been slaves.
But they were in the North. They were in Louisiana.
Yeah, but don't mean. Now I know back in Louisiana, they actually, and I
They're
just.
trying to throw us all in the same box and say we was all slaves.
Yeah.
All of us were.
And that's what I'm trying to explain to people. A lot of slavery was in the South. So what about the black people that was in the North? So you can't make them slaves. But they'll tell black people everywhere you were slaves. But what about the blacks that was in the North? They were never slaves.
That's true, because they have a movie that they show where black men were free up there. When they come down south, that's when they get caught up.
But today's American standard will tell every person that's so-called African American, you are a slave. Yeah. But that's what they teach our children in school. That, if you're African American, you came out of slaves.
Man, I guess you kind of saw after you look at it like, I'm saying that from way back. Somebody was a slave.
And somebody might have been a slave, but that don't make us slaves.
And so they came on up to the ranks and then lied us. So we might have come out as not as we were. I don't know how to say that.
No, because in the 1800s it would have been slavery. And if you just say your great parents was not slaves, then that clears it. That lets it be known.
You know, great grandma's name or whatever.
Where is she?
Lily?
Yeah.
She at our house like right now.
She's not in Highland Park, is she?
No, she on 10 Mile and John
All right. What'd you say with?
Cousin thing.
Okay, hold on. So you said your grandmother was Josephine?
Josephine Daniel.
Josephine Daniel. Okay. All right. And you said she spoke French.
Yeah. And my mother's sister. My mother was named Alice, and we called her Alice, but they called her Alache. That's French. They was in French.
Ah, she?
Alache, you know, it sounded like that. Alache. And Josephine spoke French because she was raised with in my grandmother's house. And Josephine just died last year. And she was my first cousin, one of the older first cousins. But what I'm trying to say is, when I told Pam that they didn't speak English, she didn't believe me. You know who Pam is?
Mm-hmm.
Nanny, your grandma's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So she went to look it up. And what she found out, she couldn't believe. And she called me and told, it had me and her mother, and Uncle Earl was still living, I think. Yeah, I think somebody else was still living. Well, Uncle Earl spoke French. Yeah, you know Uncle Earl, Daddy.
Mm-hmm.
He spoke French and understood English. And Pam found out that they had come from a colony in Canada. They really wasn't born in later years. They was born in Louisiana and Texas. But they really came from some colony in Canada.
Wow.
Yeah. And Pam, she didn't stop. She just kept getting information and kept getting information. And so you need to call Pam and find out what she did with all that information and how much more she knows. Because we stayed on the phone from the morning till midnight talking about it. It was very unusual, you know, and it was all a whole lot of information she found out about. A lot of people didn't know. She didn't know it either until she found it out herself. So you should call her and find out what colony they were, where she was, where our parents were when they first got us.
Right.
My mother spoke French. When her and her sister got together, they did not speak English.
Okay.
So I just hate that when we started school as children, the teachers told my mother and them and my father not to speak French to us no more, to speak English, because they had to teach us English in order to teach us in school. And that's when the older people stopped speaking. And they didn't know how to speak English. Our sisters and brothers had to teach us.
We had older sisters and brothers. They don't want to teach us to speak English. Them old people didn't even know how to. And my grandmother didn't speak English at all. And her name was Josephine Daniel. And her mother's name was Sangria, something like that. And she come from an Indian reservation.
An Indian reservation.
Yeah.
You know where from? What part? What land?
No, maybe Josephine, no. But that name is Sangria. So what kind of name is that? They say an Indian name. So, we didn't know. We asked, they used to tell you when we was little, stop asking questions. They didn't want us to know things. And when we'd ask them a question, they didn't want kids to get in their conversations. But, no, don't play with it. But, let me see. Uncle Earl went up there the last time we all had a family reunion. He went up in Jennings and found two old people who was 100 years old that was related to us. And they lived until they was 100. And everybody went across the Mary, which is some land my grandfather had. And they went to see what them old people living, and they was. And Earl took your mama and a whole lot of folks over there and met them like today, and met them like the weekend, and found out they were still living. They said they looked like two old white people. And the next day after he left the Mary, that was the name of the place they lived, them two people died. Wasn't that something?
Mm.
But I didn't get a chance to meet them, because when they told me and Arthur they needed us to help drive, they had two vans at the family reunion, and her friend, the guy that shot her, him and her was driving one of the vans, and Arthur and me drove the other van back from Louisiana to Houston, back to Houston. And so I didn't get a chance to meet the old people, but they lived 100 years and died the next day after Earl and them went there and met them and found out they were still living. Now, they didn't speak nothing but French. See, Earl could go there and talk to them because he knows how to speak French. Albert could speak French, but he wasn't like Earl. Earl was fluently. Earl could speak French with anybody. And all of them could speak French, but most of them chose to speak English after so many years. And us younger people like me and your mom, your grandma, and Wendy and them, they didn't learn it. And I said, now they tell you we got to pay now to be able to speak French when we already know it, and it stopped us from learning it. But I tell you to call Pam when you get a chance, and when she's not working, because I think she works every day, and ask her to tell you about it, because she found it out.
Now, the place you said was called the Mare. Did they own? Who owned the Mare? The place called the Mare.
My grandfather.
Your
the
grandfather.
Mary. They call it the Mary.
The Marion.
Yeah, something like the Mary. Like you say, marriage.
Okay.
My grandfather owned whatever land that was. They had a big bridge and a bridge and a big old gate. Now, when I was little, I remember going there. I remember that big old gate would swing like that, and it had a big old round thing. When you open the gate, you didn't have to close it back. This big old thing would make it close back by itself. But I only remember it was like a dream. And now my grandfather lived 100 years old, and his name was Adolf Daniel. Now, that sounds like a German name, don't it? Adolf. And he died 100 years old. And I remember good. I remember my mother going to the funeral, but she didn't take us. She left us in Louisiana with my older sister, Ruby. Aunt Ruby, you heard her talk about Aunt Ruby.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody done died. Josephine died last year, and her husband died the year before last. And then Wilson died. Wilson Jr. be on Facebook. They say all the time him and Rose fussing. They know how to speak French, because their mother didn't speak nothing but French. Wilson, I bet if you can get to know him, he had a lot. I think it's a whole lot. He should know Wilson and Vera. But both of them been dead just lately. So ain't nobody left but me and your mother. And Uncle Jim, he just died in August, next day after my birthday. But I don't think he knew how to speak French. He was the youngest out of all. But you call Pam.
So, but this is what I wanted to ask you, because I'm trying to see, because you said who was an Indian? Who was your great?
My grandmother's mother, Josephine Daniel.
Josephine Daniel.
Was my grandmother.
Uh-huh.
My mama's mama.
Uh-huh.
And her mama was named Sangria.
Sangria. Do you know what tribe she was from?
No. All I know is to say granddaddy passed through the Indian village and picked her up. And that's when how he got to know his wife, Josephine Daniel. So that was her mother.
Okay, so she was an Indian. He wasn't.
No, he wasn't. He was African. You know, Big Mama and my hair is the only one got hair like this. Big Mama had hair like I got, and nobody else.
Mm.
And they say that's where we got it from. We didn't get hair like the Indians did. Because Grandma Sangria had a long braid reaching all the way down her back of her knee.
Mm.
Now, somebody got that picture. I tell you, somebody got her picture. We didn't know they had it until lately. Anthony got it now, but Earl had all that.
Ah.
Now, you know who Anthony is. Yeah, Anthony live in Houston. Brenda's brother.
Really?
Anthony Simpson.
Okay.
Okay. Floyd's brother, Anthony. He got the picture. I guess when Earl died, Anthony got into Earl's stuff.
Yeah.
And they say he got all them pictures of all them old people. And he got a picture of Grandma Sangria.
Mm.
Yep. She a little old lady. I seen her one time. We had a family reunion, and they had her picture on a table in Houston. I think we was in Houston when we had that family reunion, or either in Louisiana. And a little woman with a long braid in the back. And we asked who that was, and they said, that's Grandma Sangria. Grandma Josephine's mama. What's the matter, honey? What you want?
Play.
What you want? Oh, you need to go away?
A toy? You gonna get your toys?
Oh,
I
yeah.
got it in the car.
Okay, he got one. He got one in the car.
So that's something. Okay, so I might definitely have to get with Anthony. So, so you say now your grandfather, he was from Africa?
That's what I was told.
Yeah.
He said he come through the Indian village and got Grandma Sangria. And out of her marrying her, he got Grandma Josephine Daniel. That's what I was told, you know. Oh, he would tell us all of these stories, all these things he knew about him, because when he was little, my grandmother and grandfather was crazy about Earl, so he was real red. His hair was red, his skin was red, and they was kind of like prejudiced people. Now, wasn't that something? And he got a grandson, just got out of prison. You heard about it? You know Anthony's brother, what his name? I know his name, but since I had the stroke, I don't have the name real good. But I imagine Anthony can tell you a lot of stuff.
Right. I'm gonna definitely get with him.
Yeah, you get with Anthony.
Well, you know,
Because I imagine his daddy told him a lot of stuff.
right. Now, because right now in the school system, they're teaching history that just seems so far-fetched.
Right.
And so, like, when you were young, did they ever teach you that your ancestors come from slavery? Was that story, very broad?
Don't do it, honey,
Stop.
because you might mash your finger. The thing about that they taught us about slavery, that we read books. They told us certain books to read, and these people were certain slavery people in slavery that were smart, and we wanted to know why it wasn't in the books. They said it was in the books. It's just that they didn't want us to know it. You know, a lot of things that the slaves did and created and made, a lot of things. They didn't want us to know it, but they put them in the book, and they didn't say that they was Negroes.
It was who?
They didn't say they was Negroes.
Ah.
Yeah, well, they in a lot of books, but they didn't differentiate who they was. Just like the man with the peanuts and the raincoat, a black man did that, a black man did this. The first blood plasma, the black man did that. Did you know that?
Mm-mm.
Oh yeah, the first blood plasma, a black man did that, and he in the books, but they didn't just outright tell us, because they would get scared to tell us, because they didn't want us to learn how to read in the first place.
So was it against the law for y'all to read back then?
Yeah, they didn't want us to know who was who. And so a lot of teachers and a lot of professors wouldn't tell things because they were scared of getting hung or lynched, which some of them did. But you have to go back and get these books and read them. You got to find out what books they are. I'm going to tell you somebody else that hung all this stuff up. Junior, your mama's brother. He know a lot of stuff. He done read up on, and he did just like you. He come and asked me concerning those things, and I told him what I knew. And he said, "Well, how come my mama don't know it?" I told him I didn't know because me and her were close together. We went to school together. I was always in one grade ahead of her, or either she was one grade ahead of me, but she said she don't remember. So something, might have happened to her. But that you got to pay attention. It's a station on TV now that comes on every week talking about the black slaves. Did you know that?
Hmm.
Did you know that there's a station?
Not in Georgia though.
Or not in Georgia?
I hadn't saw it.
It come on TV every week. Everything about the slaves, who they was, what they did, and when did it start. Like Kunta Kinte,
Yeah.
you know, when they started showing that, people said it was a lie, but it wasn't. It was true. But there was some history that man knew about, that he knew how to tell it, and they made a movie, and they made a good movie. But the white folks didn't want them to know that.
So, but now, what about? Did you get a lot of your parents or your relatives telling you that you were native to America or Indian?
Do they tell us that?
Mm-hmm.
No, but a lot of us got a color we ain't got no business having. A lot of us is light-skinned, and your daddy's daddy, they say he looked like a white guy. My daddy looked like a Cajun. When I'd ask her, I'd say, what my daddy look like? Because I couldn't remember. He said, a Cajun. You know what a Cajun is? He ain't black. He's real light-skinned with curly hair. It just so happened I took hair and color from on my mother's side. My daddy, my granddaddy, and my mother was dark. She was the darkest one on in Louisiana in the family. But all the rest of the kids was all light-skinned. And there's like Sarah and Sarah's sisters and brothers, and you know Sarah, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Half of them children is real light skinned. Half of them ain't. But they reached back there and took color from their daddy's people. Daddy was lynched because they thought he was white with a black woman. Your grandma, my mama, they thought she was, one kind of person, and he was a white man, but he wasn't. He was just a real light-skinned black man. And he got lynched because they thought he was white. And he gave him a loan because they didn't give you no loan, money loan. And they found out he wasn't no white man. And, and it's strange. Half the kids was light-skinned and the other half of the kids that was dark. Took after their grandmother. Judy and my husband, Judy, my daughter, and my husband and his sister, Joseph, John May. Under their foot was black. They come from a black Choctaw. That's why under their feet was black. It wasn't because the feet was dirty. They from an Indian tribe.
So your husband was from
Yeah.
the Indian tribe?
His family.
His family.
Yeah. The Carter. Judy took after her dad's feet, and Johnny May was Judy Ainley, one of the Ainleys, and my husband, Arthur Carter. Bottom of his feet was black. It was like it never did get clean, like some black spots under there. And when somebody be talking about him and say, did Judy have that black under her foot? I say, yeah, she sure did, and she washed her feet every day. Choctaw Indian,
Mm. And so now, who was speaking Geechee?
Now that's another nation of people. that speak Geechee. It ain't us. They thought Louisiana folks speak Geechee, but it ain't that. Geechee folks is another set of black people, come from another tribe, and he was a friend of my husband. The only friend my husband had when he was in the military was a Geechee. When my husband had to go beeswax or whatever they call it, I forget the name. You in the military? You still in that?
No, I got out.
But anyway, you know when you had to be there and couldn't go nowhere off the base.
Yeah.
Whenever my husband had to be there and couldn't go off the base, he had this one guy he was friend with, and he was Geechee, and my husband would have money to send me, and that's when he would get that guy. I don't forgot his name. He'd get that guy to bring me the money or take me shopping and stuff like that. But he talked funny. He didn't speak French. He spoke bad. He said, "Man," I think they did speak French, somewhat. But instead of saying man, he would say man. You hear some of these people on TV, these preachers that speak funny. I turn them off because I don't like the way they speak. But they had that dialect, heavy dialect, and it didn't sound good. His words sounded funny. Yeah, so that was Geechee. Then they had nothing to do. They wasn't from Louisiana. They was from like Alabama and them kind of places.
So in Louisiana, when y'all was speaking French, they didn't call it French. They called it Creole.
Creole.
So it was like a slang.
It's just that they didn't want us to be classified as like the white people, and they didn't want it to be said if the person over there was white and he spoke French and then you spoke French. They didn't want it to be the same thing, but it was the same thing. When Big Mama came and visited us here in Detroit, she looked at the Canadian station because she understood what they were saying. We didn't. She go in the room and look at TV and Canadian people talking French. And when we went to Louisiana to visit my auntie, and her name was Louisiana, that's all she had on her TV or on her radio is French, no English, because they didn't speak it. I went to visit my grandmother one summer. Everybody would go visit Grandma Daniel, Josephine Daniel. I went to visit her. I couldn't stay with her because I didn't know what she was saying. And she would get upset. She speak to me in French, and I could. But the rest of the kids that lived in Jennings, Dorothy, they understood her. Yep. So you get with Pam. She found out everything she could find out about where we stayed, where we lived, who we talked with. And it's real interesting. I'd like to know too. I'd like to know about it. Even at my age, I'd like to go back and learn French. Uncle Robert daughter that live in Georgia now. You know who I'm talking about? Carmen. You been with Carmen?
Yeah. I've talked to her recently.
Okay. She want to know a lot. And she said when she went to college to take up a new language, she didn't know about all that information. And she said first thing she told the people she wanted to speak learn how to speak French, but she didn't know why. She found out later on because that's where her family background comes from, French. You know, her daddy named Robert. But you didn't know him. That's one of her brothers. Now he knows how to speak French. They all understood French except me and your mama and Uncle Jim. And they didn't allow us to speak it. So we missed out on it. And I hate that. I hate now that if I want to learn French, I don't know. But they teaching the little kid now in school to speak Spanish and to speak French. You call Pam and ask her about it.
Yeah. So we all want to know. So you did ask us.
Baby daddy.
No.
Whoa!
So,
Let me turn.
I just see.
okay.
About who's baby daddy? I was trying
So-
to see who Cindy daddy was.
So we looking at our history.
You can look at
Who's one? Who's one, Daddy?
Like a little
Okay,
friend
all right.
is.
So y'all wasting my battery now.
Go sit down over there by your grandma. Go ahead.
I got it much.
Okay, all right. So the first question is. So I'm gonna get with you and then Lily, just more or less talk about our history. And I know last time we was having a conversation and we were talking about do you remember your grandmother or your granddaddy?
Yeah, I remember my grandmother. I remember my granddaddy, but not so much. But I do remember my grandmother.
And were they born in the 1900s or maybe the 1800s?
God, I don't know, probably.
Yeah. Do you know about their history and if they have a slave history? Were they slaves?
No, I don't. You should have did it before August the 17th.
Oh, what's about August 17th?
Jim died on August the 17th.
Right.
And then again, Lily Mae would know, she would know more than I remember.
Yeah. Well,
No.
she gonna. I'm gonna get with her next. I'm gonna get with her next. But but as far as you remember back, did your parents ever tell you descended from slaves?
No,
So you never heard about a slave history other than the school books.
that's all.
That's all. And I guess a question would be, did your your mother and them, did they speak French?
They call it Creole.
They called it Creole because y'all were black.
Well, they called it Creole. They didn't call it French. Well, they did say French as well, but anyway, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so that's what we want to just make sure. So you can remember growing up, y'all spoke Creole.
I did. My mother did.
Your mother spoke Creole.
Slavery.
So your mother never talked about slavery?
No,
Okay.
she was not a slave. My father was not a slave either. But and she never talked about it because my father died when I was a year old. So they never talked about it. But I know they weren't slaves. And like I said, she never talked about it. My grandfather, which was her father, she never talked about slavery or they weren't slaves either.
Did they own any land?
I'm not sure. They talked about a place all the time. The Mary is what they called it. Where they used to live. Now, did they own that or not? I don't know. I'm trying to think. Did you go to the Mary?
Then
I
Louisiana?
never- yeah.
So y'all basically stayed in Louisiana. That's where y'all grew up at?
Right.
Where did your parents grow up at?
In Louisiana. They never talked about a place out of the country or anything. Never. They were born and raised in Louisiana as well. In Jennings and Crowley, Louisiana.
Jennings and Crowley, Louisiana. Okay. And what was like the school system? What kind of, did y'all go to school?
Yeah, we went to school. We went to school in Louisiana, but not back there where my mom and daddy came from.
Do you know?
We went to school in Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Grandfather.
So this is my
great-grandfather's mother. The one of, we had a picture of my grandmother's mother, but I don't know who took it and how it disappeared. But she had a big black hat on with long hair down to her shoulders.
And that's the one that was Chickasaw Indian.
Right. She was an Indian.
Now let me ask this question. So, do you know of? I guess when you was coming up, was it widely taught that your ancestors descended from slaves, or maybe Indians? What did you hear a lot in your family?
Really, they didn't discuss it much. You know, you knew, but you know, it was nothing that you had a big badge or whatever and run around. You just, you know, you knew that you wasn't completely black. You knew that.
Right. So a lot of people just like knew they had Indian in their blood.
Yeah, but like I said, really it was nothing that you ran around and, you know, you discussed. Now my grandmother told me about her family, and then my grandfather once in a while would tell me a little bit about his. But there was nothing that you.
So that's what I'm saying. What would your grandmother say, for the most part?
She would tell me stories about her and the kids as a kid. She told me that it cost her 35 cents to fly around the fairgrounds with the Wright brothers. You know, and how her father was an alcoholic and he was abusive, and he would jump on her mother, and her mother would take her and all her siblings, put them on the back of a horse, give each one of them a mason jar full of hot water, and they would wrap the blanket around them and hold on to the water as to stay warm, and they was all on the horse, and she would take them to the Indian reservation and go on the reservation, which her father couldn't come on the reservation because he was an Indian. So, and he couldn't come on there, and he couldn't do nothing. Only thing he could do was send a message to her. And he would convince her to come back, and then he would do the same thing, get drunk and want to jump on her, and you know. And then she told me that she learned how to shoot, and she was a good marksman. She told me she could shoot the eyes out of a squirrel at 100 paces. You know, so, and I said, you shoot the eyes out? She said, yeah, that way there we have more meat to eat. You know, she didn't hit him in the body, she shoot him in the head. And she would tell me, you know, stuff like that, and the Wright brothers, and she told me about when Jesse James died, and she taught me the song, The Dirty Little Coward Who Shot Mr. Howard and laid poor Jesse in his grave, where you would go ahead and get a 25-pound bag of flour for 15 cents or 20 cents. She helped me as far as history goes, because, you know, listening to her, that's how I got such a love for history. And she would tell me, she says, now, there was the automobile, and then there was the horseless carriage. I say, well, I thought the automobile and the horseless carriage the same. She say, no. She says, it's a difference. And then she explained to me, you know, The horseless carriage was just that. They took and put a motor on a horse-drawn carriage. Well, without the horse, and had a motor on there, and it became the horseless carriage. And then the automobile came a little bit later. And she told me about the electricity and how you used to have candles and kerosene lanterns and all of this. She took me back to the 1800s and the 1700s, and you know. So, you know, it was fun talking with her because she was, you know.
So when she was telling you about history, you didn't hear much about slave talk.
No,
Right.
no.
Okay.
And she would refer to the Indians when she was talking of the humans and the non-humans. And the humans were the Indians, and the non-humans was the white man.
Okay, so and that's what. Okay, now we hear about stuff like that today. You know, Caucasians are not really humans; they don't have souls and things like that.
Well, this is what she told me: the Indians was the humans,
Yes.
and the non-humans was the white man.
Hmm.
You know, and she told me about what the Indians believed and how they went about life, and they never took more than what they were going to use, and they didn't slaughter women and children. Women and children were killed, but they didn't slaughter them the way that it was posted in the history books. They would kill the men because the men were threats, but they would take the women and children and raise them up as Indian. So, you know, you could see the conflict in the stories, you know. And she would tell me about that, and she was telling me, you know, you could see, I seen the world change through her eyes as she lived it. From going from horseback to automotive, the farms being plowed by horses to tractors, and now they're using combines, you know. So I got a chance to see through her life and her experience, to me, how life really was.
Wow.
And your great grandfather was highly respected by everybody.
Right.
And like I said, he was a character.
But you say now, every now and then he would talk about his history?
Not really. My grandfather, one thing grandfather would talk to you about was money.
Okay.
He talked to you about money. He talked to you. He would tell you things like, you know, you say, well, grandfather, you don't smoke. You say, no. Why you don't smoke? He say, because I tell you, son, you got a fool on one end and a fire on the other. I said, a fool on one end and fire on, he said, yeah. He said, it's foolish to sit there and watch your money go up in smoke. He said, so, you know, he would tell you stuff like that.
I like it.
You know, and to be penny wise, you know. And when he would go to the store, say for instance, he wouldn't buy bananas. Well, you might go in there and get the ripe bananas, but he get the ones that are going bad, and he got them cheaper than the other ones. And then as they start to brown, bananas get sweeter. You know, so he would always want the old bananas, not the, he didn't want the fresh fruit. Let's see, what's some of the other things? And he worked you, boy, like you was a slave. He worked the work out you. Now, he didn't get your dad, but he got me. He got me, and, at 9 years old, I had to go up there and clean the gutters, you know, at this house. And he would put the ladder up there, and he hold the ladder and send me up there to clean the gutters and bring the stuff down. And, you know, then he'd get after me because I was spilling the stuff. I said, dang, I'm 9 years old. What do you want? What do you expect me to do? And he expected me to do whatever he did. So he was very frugal, and he didn't play. Now, my grandmother would laugh. I'm saying my grandmother. Your great-grandmother, she would laugh and teach you different things, you know, different songs and all of that. But it was never a dull moment around here. You know, now, I don't know, I can't say what the other people's experience was with them. I can speak on my experience. Elginord tells a different story. Matter of fact, the description Elginord has of my grandfather is altogether different than my description as I remember him. You know. And like I said, she told me about her going out getting food for the table, you know, her hunting experience. And I guess I must have took that after her, because I'm still going out there hunting today. I love to bow hunt, gun hunt.
Well, also, great grandmother used to bow hunt?
I don't know if she bow hunted, but she hunted. And my grandfather, your great grandfather, bought her a .22 rifle, and she used that for hunting, shooting birds and